Hello again, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about Microsoft Word. But before we get into that, the joke for the lesson. Let's see. Yeah, we'll go with that one. So last time I talked about during the summer, a lot of the professors spend that time to catch up on their different research projects that they're working on. So last time I talked about what Dr. Mwangi's lab was working on. Another time I was just kind of wandering around the Science Center after taping one of these lessons. I ran into Dr. Storikson, who is one of the other chemistry professors here. And he was working in the chemistry lab, so I decided to stop in and talk to him for a little bit. And I asked him what he was working on, and he was dealing with compounds involving oxygen and potassium. And he had just finished up doing the research, and he was typing it all up, sent it off to get peer reviewed, because again, that's what all the smart professors do. And apparently he was kind of getting some mixed reviews. They weren't quite as excited as they were about the oxygen and magnesium study with this oxygen and potassium study. In fact, most of the people said it was just okay. Just okay. Alright, like I mentioned before, in this lesson we're going to be talking about Microsoft Word. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Before we dive into the lesson, just a brief note. So this deck was developed to show the primary functionality of Microsoft Word. If you're interested in a richer set of content, you can purchase Microsoft Word 2013, the ebook by Ronald and Joy Lind. It's available from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and Google Books. You can also follow that link to the Uncommon Bookstore to get a direct link to that. And shameless plug for this section. So just kind of as a working document, we'll be using Joy's Summary of Scholarly Acts. One of the questions I get asked is, why don't we use Matt's Summary of Scholarly Acts? And the short answer, Joy's is a lot more impressive than mine is, and offers a little bit more room to work with. Mine would be relatively short. So you can go ahead and go to MyUSF to retrieve a local copy that you will be modifying. So what you can do, so in this in-class example section, you'll see Summary of Scholarly Acts. If I go ahead and right-click, and I'm just going to save this link as, and then I am just going to find our COM104 folder, and I'm going to save this in Word. And yeah, so we'll do a starting version. Yep, so that should be fine. And then that should download, and then you should be able to open it. Now when you open it, it will automatically open in read mode, which isn't quite what we're looking for. We'll talk about the different views a little bit later. But for the time being, in order to get out of this, you can just press the escape key, or you can click on the enable editing button up top here. And we can go ahead and click enable editing. That way we can make edits to it as we go through the PowerPoint here. So the first thing is the file menu. So the file menu is given right over here. So within the file menu we have info, which just contains some information about the document, such as the size, number of pages, words, different things like that. New is used to create a new document. Open, if you already have a previous document saved, you can go ahead and click on that to open that. Save will overwrite the current document. Save as, if you don't want to overwrite, but if you want to still save the document, you would do save as. Print, obviously prints the document. Share would be if you want to save it to the cloud or send it in an email. Export, if you want to export it to a PDF. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Close closes the document. This account is with the Office 365, so don't really need to worry too much about that. And then options, just some options regarding the document, toolbars, different things like that. So the ribbon is right up here. So the ribbon consists of tabs. So for example, this is the Home tab, this is the Insert tab. And then within these tabs, there's groups. So we have the clipboard group, the font group, paragraph group, styles group, editing group, and WebEx group. So when I talk about tabs and groups, that's what I'm referring to. So this is just kind of an intro to what we're going to be looking at. So viewing a document, so you have several different views that you can choose from, and all of these are found in the View tab. So read mode hides the ribbon so that you can read it. This is what it was automatically first opened up to. Read mode isn't the best for editing a document, but for reading a document it can come in handy. It makes it a little bit easier to scroll through. You can just scroll with the arrow keys. And then again, to get out of read mode, you can just push the escape key. Print layout. So print layout is the main layout that we're going to be using. It allows you to see the document as well as also the ribbon up here so you can make edits. Web layout would be how your document will do it as a web page. Outline is just kind of an outline of the document. In this case, the document doesn't really lend itself to well to the outline view, so we're not going to worry too much about that. So back to views, and then draft. Just kind of remove some excess spacing between the lines. Also, you have some extra spacing over here. But like I said, most of the time we'll be working in print layout view. Page breaks. So a page break is what happens whenever Word starts a new page of a document. So there are two types of page breaks. So there's a soft page break, which as you're typing along, going along, typing, once you reach the end of one page, Word will automatically start you onto the next page. And that's what's known as a soft page break. The hard page break is something that the user manually enters, and it says, okay, I want to start a new page right where this cursor is. So for example, if I wanted to insert a hard page break right after this first paragraph, I would just go to right after the first paragraph and the cursor there, and then go to Insert, and then Pages, and then I can do Page Break. And you can see how that automatically went to a new page where my cursor was. And then to get rid of that, just go ahead and push Delete, and Delete. Get that back the way it was. So why you would want to use a hard page break is in order to avoid what are known as widows and orphans. So a widow in the context of Microsoft Word is the last line of a paragraph appearing by itself at the top of the page. So for example, if I had something like this, right, yeah, that would be an orphan. If I had something like this, yeah, this would be a widow. So widow is, so I have this paragraph, and the last line of this paragraph is appearing by itself at the top of that page. Whereas an orphan would be something like this, where I have this paragraph, where I have the first line of the paragraph appearing by itself at the bottom of the previous page. And generally, we try to avoid widows and orphans in the context of Microsoft Word, just because they don't look quite as clean. Page numbers. So by default, pages are not numbered. In order to insert page numbers, you can go to Insert tab here, and then you can do page number. So you either do at the top of the page, bottom of the page, within the margins of the page, or the current cursor position, wherever that's at. So I might just go at the bottom of the page on the right here. So as you can see, that gave me the page numbers on the right hand bottom right there. Headers and footers. So headers and footers are text boxes at the top and bottom of the pages. So the header is on the top of the page, footer is on the bottom. That will print when you print out the document. So to add a header and a footer, you can go to Insert and then Header, and we can just go ahead and type, this is a header. You can also just double click either at the top or bottom of the page to access the header and the footer. So I'll just go down here. So this is a footer. Now you'll notice that the header and the footer are the same on both pages. There are ways that you can get around that if you'd like a different header and footer on different pages. So what you can do is you can just go to the end of one page, and if you go to Page Layout and then Breaks, now this is another way that you can also insert a new page break, is that you can go to Page Layout and Breaks. But we're going to do a continuous section break. So now it's created a new section. So this first page is section 1 and the second page is section 2. So now if I go to the header here, you notice up here in the Design tab, I can click on this Link to Previous and do section 2. So now section 1's header is still, this is a header, but I have a different header for section 2. And that whole section break will come in handy later on when we talk about pretty much any paragraph format, such as columns. So for example, if you want only a certain part in multiple columns and the rest in one column, you would put a section break and then change the page layout for the different sections. Okay. Other word basics. So word wrap. So Word automatically wraps. So word wrap just means that once you reach the end of one page, it automatically starts on the next page. If you go to page layout and hyphenation, you can choose different hyphenation options. And then that will determine whether different sections are hyphenated or not. So as you can see, if I do automatic on this publications, you can see that that changes the hyphenation there. Undo is right up here. You can also do Control-Z if you're into the keyboard shortcuts. Orientation, so page layout, orientation, I can go portrait, landscape. Bold, italics, and underline, so that's all done in the Home tab in the Font group. Text boxes, you can do Insert Text Box if you want to insert a text box. Cover page, if you go to Insert Pages, you can do Cover Page. You can choose what style you'd like, and that just inserts a cover page for the document. Makes it a little bit more snazzy, I guess. Find, if you go to Home, over in the editing, you can find the Find. Replace. So if I want to find each of the instances of USF and replace it with the University of Sioux Falls. So I can just replace. Now you notice that when I do that, it automatically replaces the University of Sioux Falls with all caps, which isn't quite what I'm looking for. So how I can get around that is if I go to this More, I can choose Match Case. So then I can find the next one, Replace, and replace all. And that should replace each of those. And spelling and grammar, if you go to Review, you can do spelling and grammar, and that will do a spelling and grammar check for you.